Organizational Structure, Business 110, Introduction to Management. Organizational strategies. Strategy is about making choices that provide an organization with some measure of competitive advantage. It's also about success of the organization. Best strategies come about when managers are able to balance the needs for design, such as planning, with being flexible enough to capitalize on the benefits of emergence, such as new ideas, products, services, and innovation. Organizational design is the degree which a company is centralized and formalized. Also, the number of levels in an organizational chart and the type of departmentalization the company uses are key elements of a company's structure. Structure affects the degree to which the company is effective and innovative as well, and also employee attitudes and behaviors at work. These elements come together to create several types of structures. Formalized structured are those in which there are many written rules and regulations, and these structures control employee behavior using written rules so that employees have little choice or empowerment to decide on a case-by-case basis. An advantage of formalization is that it makes employee behavior more predictable. Centralization is the degree which decision-making authority is concentrated at higher levels in an organization. In centralized companies, many important decisions are made at levels at the top of management. There are several fundamental issues that managers need to consider when making any kind of organizational decision. Clear objectives, coordination, formal and informal organization, the organizational chart as we are viewing here, and formal authority. Understanding these fundamentals can facilitate the creation of an organizational structure so that it is a good fit for small businesses and also large businesses. When we talk about tall structures in an organizational chart, we see that they have many layers of management between frontline employees and employees at the top level. In tall structures, the number of employees report to each manager tends to be smaller, resulting in greater opportunities for managers to supervise and monitor employee activities. But in contrast, we look at flat structures, then which involve a larger number of employees reporting to each manager. In such a structure, managers will be relatively unable to provide close supervision, leading to greater levels of freedom of action for each employee. One example of a flat organization is IKEA. It is one of my favorite organizations, or I can say places where I like to shop, and a great example of a flat structure in design. The role of HR managers is to know the business and therefore know the needs of the business and can develop a plan to meet those needs. They also stay on top of current events so they know what is happening globally, locally, on a national level, and they can affect their strategic or the company's strategic plan. If they find out, for example, that an economic downturn is looming, they will adjust their strategic plan. In other words, the strategic plan needs to be a living document, one that changes as the business and the world changes. Adaptive organizations, and when we look at adaptive organizations, we can look at the matrix organization that has a design that combines a traditional functional structure with a product structure. There are also boundaryless organizations, and this is a term, a different term, I think, coined by Jack Welch during his tenure as CEO of GE. And it refers to an organization that eliminates traditional barriers between departments as well as barriers between the organizational and external environment. A virtual organization, well, let's look at ourselves. We are in a virtual environment as we are in a classroom. And we can also look at a learning organization, which is a mindset in which the learning organization has developed the capacity to continuously adapt and change because all of the members, employees, and stakeholders take an active role in identifying and resolving work-related issues. organizational change has to do with responses in the environment and responses as a organization to the way decision makers interact with these changes. When it comes to organizational change, one of the biggest obstacles is resistance to change. People resist because change disrupts habits, conflicts with certain personality types, causes a fear of failure, can have potentially negative effects, can result in a potential for loss of power, and when done too frequently can exhaust employees. When we look at the process of change, we see that it goes through a system such as freezing, unfreezing, and trying to make that change stay, as in the refreezing process. And again, this is a process of change. This is something that has been around or been introduced years ago, and it's one way that managers try to ensure, as we see, that employees will adopt or accept and go through the stages of change. One adaptive organizational structure is teams, and I believe we are all familiar with teams. Because many tasks in today's world have become so complex, groups and teams have become an essential component of an organizational success. The success of the group depends on the successful management of its members and making sure all aspects of work are fair for each member. Being able to work in a group is a key skill for managers and employees alike. Cohesive groups tend to have the following characteristics. They have a collective identity, they experience a moral bond, and a desire to remain part of the group. They share a sense of purpose, working together on meaningful tasks or causes, and they establish a structured pattern of communication. When a team is well organized, it tends to perform well. Well-designed teams are able to capitalize on positive events while maintaining composure when facing a negative event. There are several strategies that can boost team effectiveness through adaptive organizations. Think of your own experience as a team member. What worked well? What did not? And what were the results? I hope they were positive ones. The end.